What if I told you that the most badass spy organization in cinema history started because a British aristocrat made a promise to his dying wife? I'm talking about the Kingsman, a secret villain organization led by a guy called the Shepherd, who's basically running World War I like it's his personal chess game. We start our story in South Africa during the Second Boer War, where British aristocrat Orlando, the Duke of Oxford, is doing his humanitarian thing with the Red Cross. He's got his wife Emily, their young son Conrad, and their loyal bodyguard Sholo in tow, visiting a concentration camp because, as Emily puts it, people born into privilege must lead by example. Noble sentiment, terrible timing. Orlando goes inside to meet with General Kitchener, while Emily stays outside with Conrad and Shola. When Emily decides to check on her husband, things go sideways fast. A sniper opens fire, and while Orlando catches a bullet in the leg, the real target is General Kitchener. But in a tragic twist of fate, the bullet meant for the general hits Emily instead. Shola takes out the sniper, but the damage is done. As Emily lies dying, she makes Orlando promise that Conrad will never have to witness war again.
Protect our son.
Orlando gives his word, Emily dies, and this promise becomes the driving force behind everything that follows. Fast forward 12 years, and we're back at the Oxford estate. Conrad is now a young man training in combat with Shola while being looked after by the nanny Polly Watkins, who, surprise, is actually one of Orlando's spies. The whole household is basically a cover for Orlando's intelligence network. Orlando takes Conrad to the Kingsman tailor shop, which serves as their front operation. Conrad hates the formal suit they're fitting him with and asks for a shooting suit instead, but Orlando refuses. That is, until General Kitchener and Major Morton show up for a secret meeting upstairs. Whatever they discuss changes Orlando's mind completely, because suddenly Conrad does need that shooting suit after all. Meanwhile, in some shadowy location, we meet the film's real villain, a mysterious Scottish mastermind calling himself the Shepherd. He's assembled a collection of history's worst people, the mad monk Rasputin. The Shepherd hands out rings with animal symbols to each member of his evil organization. When Rasputin complains about getting stuck with a tortoise symbol instead of something cooler,
Am I not worthy of a better animal? I will be the great bear of Russia.
the Shepherd demonstrates his brutality by killing one of his beloved goats. Message received.
The tortoise eventually wins the race.
The Shepherd's plan is diabolically simple. He wants to destroy England by manipulating the three cousin rulers of Europe, King George V of England, the Kaiser Wilhelm Tamiya of Germany, and Tsar Nicholas II of Russia, into tearing each other apart in a massive war. He's got people positioned close to each ruler to pull their strings. The Princip gets his first assignment: assassinate Archduke Franz Ferdinand. At Kitchener's request, Orlando and Conrad join the Archduke's parade as protection. When Princip throws his bomb at Ferdinand's car, Conrad actually deflects the explosion with an umbrella, saving the day temporarily. But Princip isn't done yet. Sitting in a cafe, Princip spots the Archduke's car driving into a dead end. He seizes this second chance and shoots both Ferdinand and his wife Sophie, killing them both before getting arrested. Orlando immediately realizes this assassination will trigger a massive European conflict, and he's absolutely right, and the Shepherd is thrilled. His plan is working perfectly. But he's not done yet. He wants Russia to pull out of the war so Germany can focus all its forces on destroying England. For this, he needs Rasputin to manipulate Tsar Nicholas. Rasputin's method is absolutely twisted. On the Shepherd's orders, he gives poisoned candy to Nicholas's young son Alexei, then uses his soap, called miraculous healing powers, to cure the boy. This convinces Nicholas and his wife that Rasputin is holy and essential,
to risk your son's life,
giving him enormous influence over Russian policy. One of Orlando's spies, who happens to be Conrad's cousin, witnesses this manipulation and reports back. A Major Morton suggests they go to Russia and handle the Rasputin situation themselves. But first, tragedy strikes again. A General Kitchener is traveling by ship when a submarine launches a missile that destroys the vessel, killing everyone on board. Before his death, Kitchener had written a letter expressing regret about his last encounter with Orlando, knowing he might not survive. With Kitchener dead, Orlando decides to take matters into his own hands. He assembles his team, Conrad, Polly and Shola, in their secret headquarters. Orlando reveals he's already been busy. He visited Princip in his prison cell, fought off guards who were about to hang the assassin, and extracted information about the Shepherd's organization. Their target is clear. Rasputin must die before his influence over the Russian royal family gets worse. Orlando explains to Conrad why he's become a pacifist despite being a skilled killer. He believes taking lives destroys part of your soul. The team travels to Russia with a plan that's equal parts clever and ridiculous. They know Rasputin has a fondness for young men and sweet cakes.
But it's a long way to come for a Christmas party.
So they use Conrad as bait while poisoning Rasputin with a cyanide-laced Bakewell tart. What could go wrong? Everything, apparently. Orlando and Conrad infiltrate one of Rasputin's dinner parties, but the mad monk finds Conrad boring and becomes interested in Orlando instead. He brings Orlando to his private chambers, claiming he can heal Orlando's old leg wound from the concentration camp. What follows is one of the most bizarre scenes in action movie history. Rasputin performs some kind of ritual where he licks Orlando's leg wound, then stuffs his face with half the poisoned cake. But instead of dying, Rasputin vomits the cake back up. Turns out the guy takes poison every morning to build immunity, because of course he does. Rasputin then guides Orlando outside to a frozen lake, revealing he knew about the poisoned cake all along. He tries to drown Orlando in the icy water, but Conrad and Scholl arrive just in time. What follows is an epic three-way battle on the frozen lake, with Rasputin proving to be surprisingly skilled in combat.
Time to dance.
Conrad manages to shoot Rasputin's blade out of his hand before he can kill Scholl, but then Rasputin goes after Conrad. Orlando stabs the mad monk in the chest and drags him into the lake to drown him. But because this is Rasputin we're dealing with, he rises from the water for one final kill attempt. Thankfully, Polly is positioned nearby and puts a bullet in his head, finally ending the threat. The team celebrates Conrad's birthday on the train ride home, but their victory is short-lived. Conrad wants to continue fighting and join the war effort, but Orlando absolutely refuses, remembering his promise to Emily. Meanwhile, Polly intercepts a message from Wilhelm's secretary to Mexico, trying to get Germany to ally with Mexico against the United States. President Woodrow Wilson is contacted about this threat, but he dismisses it without concrete evidence and refuses to get involved in the European war. This is where Conrad makes the decision that changes everything. Fed up with sitting on the sidelines while people die, he secretly switches places with a soldier named Archie Reed and heads to the front lines. He joins British and Scottish soldiers fighting against the German army. During a nighttime mission to recover an important item from a fallen informant, Conrad and 5 other soldiers engage in brutal close quarters combat with German forces. The fighting is vicious, they're stabbing each other in the dark. They're barely surviving an attack from a massive German soldier with a hammer. Conrad manages to reach the wounded informant, who has had his leg blown off. The experience of killing people in combat breaks Conrad down emotionally. He's crying, telling the dying informant that he never got to say goodbye to his father. The informant tries to comfort him in his final moments. The next morning, Conrad carries the informant's body across the battlefield under fire from both sides. They're hit by an explosion that kills the informant and leaves Conrad wounded but alive. He successfully delivers the item the informant was carrying to the British command. But when Conrad tries to maintain his cover as Archie Reed, a soldier who actually knew Archie calls him out as a liar and accuses him of being a German spy. Before Conrad can explain, the soldier shoots him in the head, killing him instantly. Orlando receives word of his son's death and falls into a deep depression. At Conrad's funeral, with Scholl and Polly in attendance, Orlando begins drinking heavily and avoiding all help from his friends. He's completely broken by failing to keep his promise to Emily and losing the son he tried so hard to protect. It's only after speaking with King George that Orlando finds the strength to honor Conrad's memory by completing their mission. The item Conrad died retrieving turns out to be written proof of the telegram sent by Wilhelm's secretary, concrete evidence of Germany's attempt to ally with Mexico against America. But the shepherd isn't finished. His organization has been busy in America, where they've sent Mata Hari to seduce President Wilson and record it on film. They're using this blackmail to keep the United States out of the war. Orlando travels to America, where he finds that Mata Hari has already gotten to Wilson. Orlando confronts her and strangles her with her own scarf. then meets with the American ambassador to learn the full extent of the blackmail scheme. The final confrontation takes place at the Shepherd's Mountain. Orlando, Polly, and Scholler plan a coordinated assault. Polly provides sniper support. Scholler takes his own position, and Orlando plans to parachute in from a plane. Of course, nothing goes according to plan. He has to climb up using knives and almost gets knocked off by one of the shepherd's goats. In a moment of pure absurdity, Orlando grabs onto the goat's horn to pull himself up. The action sequence that follows is peak Kingsman chaos. Orlando fights a massive brute in the barn while Polly picks off enemies with her rifle, and Scholler performs some impressive acrobatics involving counterweights and decapitation. But the real shock comes when the shepherd finally reveals himself. It's Major Morton, the same man who's been working alongside Kitchener and Orlando this entire time. He even admits to firing the missile that killed Kitchener. Orlando and Morton engage in a brutal sword fight on the edge of a cliff. Just when it looks like the shepherd might win, the goat from earlier, who had one of its horns cut off by Morton, impales Morton's leg with its remaining horn. Orlando rises and holds Morton over the cliff edge, drops him onto the rocks below, finally ending the shepherd's reign of terror, with the blackmail video sent to President Wilson so he can destroy it. The film ends with the understanding that this organization will continue Orlando's work, protecting the world from threats that governments can't or won't handle. Smash that like button, hit subscribe and ring that notification bell. If this recap helped you decide whether to watch the movie, smash that like button because it genuinely helps me know what kind of content resonates with you.